Hello friends, this is take 2 of a video that I just spent 20 minutes making with no audio. So kind of goes in perfectly with what I wanted to talk to you guys about. So I'm doing like a part 2 to the first video that I posted last week. This video is the spiritual dangers of social media. And I had a personal experience just the last couple of weeks that has brought this up for me. But I really want to preface with stating that the reason why I'm sharing these videos is just because I hope that maybe it might be helpful in some way. I know that I am definitely like encouraged and inspired and helped by other people sharing wisdom in different ways. So I am in no way an authority of some of the things that I've been talking about. A little bit of just my background when we're talking about more biblically based teachings is I grew up in a Foursquare Pentecostal home, and I was not rooted enough in that to stick with it. So during my teen years and my adult life, I stepped away from the church, although I always believed in God. And I just thought that Christians maybe didn't like have all the answers. So I look back at it now and I realize that I was definitely influenced by more of like a Gnostic mindset and what I would call now New Age, New Thought. Although the more you learn, the more you realize that nothing is really new. So New Age is definitely not new. It's very old, been around for a long time. So my previous belief system, was like on that ascension pathway, on the shamanic journey of the soul, that type of thing, believing in multiple dimensions and that we can elevate our own mind and soul to become a god ourselves. And I won't get into it too much in this video. There's some videos in the future that I think is going to definitely touch on that. But that's where I come from. After experiencing tragedy in my life, I was called back to the faith, and I had like a year of spiritual solitude, pretty much trying to sort out a lot of things. I asked God to show me and reveal himself to me. And through that journey, I came to the Orthodox Christian faith. And if you know anything about Orthodoxy, it is not something that you just like show up and they baptize you and you're good to go. It's quite the process. And it's because it is an ancient tradition that is passed down, and it was founded by our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. So, original apostolic church, lots of different traditions, lots of very deep rooted theology, practices huge on prayer life. To me, it just like offers so much for my spirit and my soul, and also a ton of like practical wisdom for everyday life. I'm a mother, I'm a business owner, I'm a fitness coach. There's a lot of different aspects of my life. And so I find a lot of really valuable teachings and lessons through this journey with hopefully becoming a part of the Orthodox Church. But with that being said, I just want to clarify that I have like zero authority. I am not even probably the best person to be talking about this. I'm only doing it because I care deeply about my friends and family and the people that I have the opportunity to speak to. And I have been transformed by other people sharing their story. So I hope that I can just help in some way. That is really all of my intention. So back to the topic of this video, the spiritual dangers of social media. And I have some notes, so you'll kind of see me going back and forth. This is how modern platforms train the passion. So last week we had a patristic wisdom, patristic just meaning coming from the early church fathers, of the 3 main passions that are dominating our modern society. So the core principle that we're talking about is considering that all aspects of our life, we must ask, what does this train our soul to desire? So what we feed, what we consume, mentally, spiritually, physically, is truly what we are making agreements on. That might not be commonly accepted and even acknowledged, but I believe that to be truth, and you can kind of see that in the way that it translates over into the fruits of our life and the good things and the bad things, the hard things, the great things that we experience in the flesh. One thing to consider is that social media is not neutral. I don't know if you've ever seen the documentary called The Social Dilemma, but it's flat out telling us that our attention is the product that is being sold. So there's a dark side to the internet. There's a dark side to social media. And I think that it's important that we have these conversations and that we are aware of them, because every time I talk about it with my, close friends, like, we're all struggling in some way. Like, I hear this very often. So I don't think that this is a taboo discussion. I think that it should be openly discussed. And I'm going to share with you a little bit about how I came to learn how to deal with how to handle social media, like how to handle my presence on social media. So that's what this video is all about. Okay, so social media is not neutral. It forms habits of attention, and habits of attention form the heart. So, true story. That's just the truth is that we are what we consume. So what brought me to all of this and to why I wanted to bring this up on this video is 2026, new year, hit the ground running. I wanted to grow my businesses. I wanted to connect with more customers. I wanted to have really meaningful conversations and share insights and tips and tools and resources. I wanted to really help support our fitness journey, whether that's mind, body, spirit, or legacy building. And part of that is expanding my social media accounts, really, and my presence online. So I started to give more access of my life to social media with that intention. And, I enjoy marketing, and there's a lot of opportunities like never before to increase exposure. So, I kind of just was like, all right, let's do this thing. And I quickly realized the subtle costs of what that extra attention really had. I know I'm not the only one. I found myself struggling to focus on my personal life, and my mind seemed attached to conversations that I was having online or opinions of other people that I was consuming. Media, news, all the things that are happening all over the world. It's very captivating. So this last weekend, I caught myself sitting with my kids, just mindlessly scrolling, and I realized what I was doing. And I know that this is super common and it's totally socially acceptable, but I have personally learned to cherish the time that I have with my loved ones, and especially with having a small child. And I'm mindful of what I show my kids and how I show up for my kids. And I also believe that the home is a sacred space. And so I caught myself not treating the time that I have at home with presence and respect and awareness of the gratitude that I hold very close to my heart. So luckily, I have been learning about the passions and studying the patristic wisdom around how we can identify and consciously act to restore our presence and our peace, and hold sacred the small and big parts of our life that desire our whole self. So one of the books that I've been reading is called Unseen Warfare. And a little bit about this book is that it was originally titled The Spiritual Combat, and it was published in 1589, and then it was translated and edited in the 18th century. So this is like a super heavy book. In like the Orthodox faith, a lot of what we do is like a lot of reading and a lot of learning, but it's like so good for the soul. I'm just so appreciative of it, but it's very heavy. Like, I would not start here. This is not like the first book to read, but I wanted to share with you just a passage that helped me through what I was going through. Stay wakeful and collect your attention within yourself. Fight with courage, and fight not only the great and strong, but also the small and weak stirrings of your passions. For the small open the way to the great, especially when they have become a habit. Experience has many times confirmed the fact that when a man pays little attention and care to repulsing small passionate desires from the heart, After he has overcome the great, he is subject to sudden and unexpected attacks of the enemy, so impetuous that he is unable to hold his ground in battle, and his downfall is more grievous than those of old. Moreover, I remind you of the fact that you should cut off and kill every passionate attachment to things which, although permissible, are not indispensable. As soon as you notice that they weaken the intensity of your will for good, distract attention away from yourself, and disorganize the good order you have established in your life. You will gain much profit from this by thus training yourself to self-mastery. In all other things as well, you will become stronger and more expert in struggling against temptations, and will avoid a great many snares of the devil, who knows how to spread his nets on these inoffensive paths, and I assure you your actions will win God's favor. Sorry. Yeah, so that was just encouraging to me. I was like, all right, we're going to cut this off. We're just going to root this up right now. I've struggled with addictions in my life, and I'm telling you what, like, I no longer want to give that agency in my life. I don't care what it is. I don't care if it's social media, if it's sugar, if it's nicotine or alcohol or weed or whatever it is. I'm not doing it. I hold so sacred the things that I have in my life right now. I've had to realize how short this life is, unknowably short. And so I take that personally with everything that I do in my life. Every single moment of every single day, I try to really hold that sacred. And living my life as if it is a walking prayer. And that's why I love the Orthodox faith, because it really embraces that and encourages that and helps you to train the things that you're working on in your heart. So if I'm dealing with feeling like maybe this could become an addiction, I need to have something to help me to be able to overcome this so it doesn't overtake my life. Unfortunately, you guys, we're going to come to the realization that social media has ruined families, and that it has ruined some of our mental health, and that it's ruined relationships, and it's ruined community. So it's not without fault, and it is something that definitely needs to be considered and looked at. So with that being said, I don't have just all bummer things to talk about. So part of our healing path is talking about a healing virtue. So a healing virtue is okay, if you're experiencing this passion, then the healing virtue is the opposite good thing that you can do. And part of it is learning how to do more of the good thing than the passion or the temptation that you're struggling with. Unfortunately, those weaker things, it's like shallow roots. It can root easier, but not deeper for us. So we have to be mindful of that. That's just part of our nature, of our fallen human nature. And so learning what the healing virtue is, and consciously and acting upon, and making sure that we are spending more time bringing the healing virtue into our real life. Sorry, this thing keeps falling on me. Okay, so vainglory. So that was one of the passions that we talked about last week. We can call this the cult of visibility. Okay, so what is it? It is disordered desire to be seen, praised, noticed, or affirmed. So social media feeds it by the metrics replacing meaning. So likes, views, followers, as if that equates to something noble and desirable. That life becomes performative. I know that this could get me real quick because I live a really awesome life. I do lots of things that are so meaningful, and I would love to share with everybody in the world all the time. But if I allowed myself to do that, then I would just constantly be in this online world, and I wouldn't be present in my real life. And then the things that matter most to me would be negatively affected, and I might even ultimately lose them. So making sure that we don't live life to be performative, very important. Virtue is curated instead of lived. So you're kind of just by talk as opposed to your real life. And that silence feels irrelevance. So whenever you don't get the attention, then you're oh, I don't matter. Nobody sees me. So what the soul learns is that if it is not seen, that it does not exist, which is not true. The spiritual diagnosis for vainglory is that, it thrives where witness replaces conscience, And St. John Climacus taught that vainglory stills virtue after it is accomplished. So healing virtue, let's get to the other side of the good side of it, is humility and hiddenness. So some of the things that we could do is we could do good works that can't be posted, just like, do more in our life that people don't see. And it does add to that humility piece to make sure that we're keeping that, like, that desire to be seen in check, to where it doesn't create that passion in our life that takes from us. Let God alone be the witness. So I love that. So just, he sees you, and that's really all that matters, really, in the end. Okay, moving on to Acedia. So restless, discontent, and spiritual fatigue. So what is it? Spiritual paralysis, boredom with like your daily life, or like this is specifically talking about like boredom with your prayer life, resentment of one's place, desire to escape. I mean, come on, how many times have we like scroll Instagram or I don't know, Pinterest or something, and we're just looking at everybody else's life and everything that they have going on, and it's making us feel inadequate. It's making us feel like, oh, I wish I had this, or I wish I had that. I wish my body looked a certain way, I wish my house did. Wish I could make sourdough the way that lady does, or whatever it is. So whenever that translates into a feeling of restlessness and discontent, then it does start to root into our heart. So how social media feeds this is its infinite scrolling mimics movement without progress. So you think that you're going somewhere, but you ain't going nowhere. Constant novelty weakens perseverance. So this is huge. Like, we wonder why we have a hard time like sticking with things or paying attention to things. Well, this like short content, constant thing definitely affects us, and then we don't realize how much work it actually takes to actually get something done, like a long time, a lot of work, and we have to have perseverance, just not give up. Comparison breeds resentment. So either you're resenting somebody else, and that can turn into bitterness in your heart, or you're starting to resent your own life because you don't resemble the people that you are being exposed to or what you're consuming. And if you, have a prayer life, maybe prayer starts to feel boring by contrast, like, oh my gosh, or fasting, or all the other things that we're doing, like compared to what everybody else is doing on social media, Okay, so what the soul learns is what it's learning, what we're feeding it when we are in this state of avarice, is that anywhere but here and anything but this. So it escapes us from our present reality. So the spiritual diagnosis for that is recognizing that acedia is not laziness and it's not hatefulness of stillness, but it is described as the demon that makes one constantly look elsewhere. So think about that. Instead of just like being present in your real life, what do we do? And we're like scrolling, like we're putting ourselves into like a different reality. And so the healing virtue for this is perseverance and steadfast. So the practices would be setting fixed times without your screens, fasting from them. I started to make a schedule. I was like, okay, I need to fast like 3 days a week. I need to just like not have this thing. I need to get out of the habit of just picking it up and scrolling. Or if you're a content creator, making sure that you have a schedule that's like, okay, 2 days I'm creating, and then like 2 days I'm posting, and I'm scheduling future posts, but don't let it consume your life. You have to be like kind of hardcore about it for this to not take control of you. And the last one is avarice, which is the economy of fear. So this is also making us feel like we have to have like these followers. We have to grow this business. We have to have this because we're scared that if we don't, we're not going to be successful. So that's kind of like really crash course on some of the passions that I know that I've been dealing with, that I can see that are affecting us in social media. So I'd love to know what you think. Maybe share your stories, maybe share some extra tips, but yeah, think about this one. God bless you all.